Okay. Getting going here, continuing with our guided project. We just placed levels and grids. One thing I realized I forgot to mention to you in the last video, we do need a save. What I would like you guys to save this as is guided project. What I would really prefer and encourage you guys to do is save as your project. Go into your documents, right click, new folder, and make a folder specific for what you're doing. Okay. I called mine Guided Project 25, just because this is the 24-25 school year. Just call yours Guided Project or Revit Guided Project. It really does not matter, but you do need to save. Moving forward, next steps. We have our grids, we have our levels. Okay, what are we doing with them? We're going to start placing foundations and footings. Mm-mm-mm. So looking in here, let's go back to our notes. What I would like us to do is look at first note for our crawl space. Foundation walls are 8 inches thick, cast in place concrete with a 24-inch by 12-inch concrete T footing. Okay, that's given us all the material and sizing we need to do exactly what we need to do. Here, we get levels, so we know what height it's supposed to lay at. Okay, material size, and then the material. Okay, concrete cast in place. There's different ways to do concrete. You can do concrete masonry unit or CMU, where you lay the brick, lay the mortar inside of it, and let that sit. But concrete cast in place, residential construction, a lot more widely used, I believe. So, what are we going to do here? Well, first, we're going to place our foundation walls. On the job site, this is a little different. You would always pour footings first and then walls. In Revit, the way footings work is you need a wall to exist to place the footing on. Because there's never going to be a gap between a footing and a thing. I guess technically, if we go to structure, we could make an isolated slab and call that a footing. But the way that we do footings is going to be super easy and you're going to love it. So, foundation wall, architecture tab, or structure, they're the same command in both places. Wall. Okay. Now I'm going to look through here, and I got a generic 8-inch wall. But what I need is a concrete cast in place 8-inch wall. And I currently have nothing like that. So, for the sake of learning, I'm going to start with my 6-inch wall, and I'm just going to place all of them in a square right here. Okay. I would like you guys to do the same thing. I'm going to look in my 3D and we see just a big chunk of wall. Okay. It's generic. We're not really doing anything with it. What we need to do is two things. One, we need to tie this wall to our levels. We need to tie it to our grid. And then, or another thing we also need to do is we need to attach it to our, or not attach to, we need to apply our material and sizing. How do we do all that? Just personal habit. First thing I like to do is I like to get the material and sizing all set up. But how am I going to do that? One, I'm going to select my wall, edit type. Okay, what is a type? Well, let's take a look. Okay, next slide here. I've talked about families before. These are the elements that make up a model. Right now, we're working with a wall family. Okay, this is a family or a element typed as a wall. Okay, that's like the code that attached to it is it's a wall family. Okay, types, subgroups of families, and a different family may have multiple types, all with different properties and parameters. can be selected and modified under the properties browser. So I'm in Revit. My properties are right here. I want to select all my walls. This drop down, I'm looking at all my different families. These are all wall families. Wall family, wall family, wall family. Sometimes families have subtypes. Okay, right now, these don't. Okay, my bad. I am misspeaking. The wall family is the wall family. These are all types of walls. What I would like to do is I'd like to make my own one. Okay, how do I just like kind of start from scratch and do my own thing? Um, for now, we can't. What we can do is we can create a copy of an existing wall and modify the copy. So I'm going to select, this is what's important, have your walls all selected. Okay. If I select my walls and edit type, any changes I make will, sorry, just making sure. Yeah, I am recording. Thank goodness. I forgot it whether or not I started it. Okay. Once I have my walls, any changes I make here, as long as my walls are selected, will automatically apply. If my walls are not selected, they may not automatically apply. Okay. So like I was saying, I want to make a copy of my wall. I'm going to duplicate, and we're going to name this 8-inch, going back to our wall, our directions. What are we making? We're making an 8-inch thick cast in place concrete wall. So we're going to name this 8-inch CIP foundation wall. Scratch that. Foundation wall, 8-inch CIP, or 8-inch cast in place. And I'm going to click OK. Now nothing changed yet. I just made a new type by copying an old type, gave it a new name. How am I actually going to mess with all that? Here are all of our parameters or the properties of our wall. There's a lot here. The great thing is that we don't got to mess with most of them. We want to stay in construction and look at the structure of our wall. And we're going to edit that. Okay, this is our assembly browser of the wall. This wall is only going to have one layer because it's only going to be concrete. When we get to exterior walls, there's going to be a stud layer, exterior sheathing, interior sheathing. There's going to be siding. There's going to be a membrane layer. There's going to be all these different layers we got to work about. Okay, we see our layers right here. Okay, we have one. I know it looks like we have three. Core boundary, we can ignore for now. Those don't matter to us yet. But our structural layer is right here. We see that we don't have a material. Okay, it says by category. That's just like the default nothing material. And it's 6 inches thick. So what I would like us to start doing is to change that 6 inches to 8 inches. Okay, that's what we're going with. Foundation wall, 8-inch cast in place. I'm going to click OK. And what's important is that nothing happens until I click apply or OK here. Okay. As I click apply, I want you guys to watch. These walls are going to get a little bit thicker. That was almost impossible to see. If I go to my first floor now, though, I can use my measurement tool. Okay, measurement tool up here. I have a keybind for SS just because it's where my hand always is. There is no, I don't think there is. Okay, there's no default keybind for measuring. 8 inches thick. Okay, this is different than a dimension. A dimension exists forever. Whoops. If I place my dimension, boom, it exists there forever. If I just want to check something quick, I type SS to start my measurement tool. Boom, boom, 8 inches. Okay. So I now have my wall 8 inches thick, but I also need to apply a material to it. Okay. It's cast in place concrete. I'm going to reselect my walls, edit type, edit my structure, and here under material, I'm going to hover over and click those three little dots. Okay, now this is our materials browser. Revit is super powerful with materials. There have been there's just a lot you can do. And actually, what I'm going to pause right now and do is find an old picture I have of, well, we'll see if I can find it. And then I'll show you guys if I can. Yeah, I've got it. So, materials in Revit, super big deal. This was my first Revit job that I ever had. I was working for a company called Heritage Homes in Wayne. They were moving from an old system called AutoCAD to a new system called Revit. Um, and I was the first person in the company to really start doing that. Here you can see all the levels, the common levels that we had. Um, anyways, this is inside of Revit, and don't judge me too hard. I think this looks really good. It's hard to tell that this is a photo. It's hard to tell that these are not real cabinets. This is not real drywall. That's not real laminate flooring. Super hard to tell. Okay. The materials in Revit are super powerful in appearances and then analytics. We don't need to get into it now, but know that the materials in Revit are important. So I'm here. I'm in my materials browser. Revit has some default materials. If I just search cast in place, oh, never mind. Concrete. Okay, concrete cast in place gray. I want to select that, click OK, and now we can see my material is concrete. Click OK, click apply, and we can now see we have this little pattern representing concrete on our wall. So it's no longer generic, it has a material. We can tell because we're able to see that pattern. Not every material has a pattern. Concrete's one that does, so we're able to tell. So, placing foundations, I now have a foundation that exists that is the correct material, correct size. What I need to do is tie it to my grids. Couple ways to do this. I can drag it to my grid. Super easy, super quick. Modify tab, align tool. I click the surface that I would like to remain in place. This grid is going to stay in place. And then I select the outside edge of my wall. And you see it move. I want to lock that into place. This foundation wall is going to stay on that grid forever. Okay. Now notice, item I want to stay. And when I hover over that wall, if I'm too far away, I can't get the edge. I click tab. Tab will cycle through the different edges. Go out farther. Okay. I get different options and I can tab through them. And if you get close enough, you can just, well, maybe you can't. Tab, lock it in place. Notice if I go the other direction, it shifts everything else. I didn't want everything else to move. I want my grid to stay in place. So align, fix. My keybind for align tool is AA. Grid to stay in place, foundation. Okay. While we're here, my grids really shouldn't be moving. I'm going to hold control and select all of my grids. I'm going to come up in my modify tab. I'm going to pin them in place. Those grids will never move now. Okay, before I did that, you could still move them around that way. I don't want to do that. I want to select them all, pin into place. Now I can't do nothing with them, which is exactly what I want. Check my 3D. My box has expanded, but now I want to go to my south elevation, and I'm going to check this. We should have a 3-foot tall foundation, and that's 20 foot. By default in Revit, walls are 20 foot tall. Since we are on the original part of our house, it's just a crawl space. Here's the top of my footing, which would also be the bottom of my wall for the crawl space. AA for the align tool, or you can go to the modify tab and select the align tool, select my level, and select that grid. My bad. That's the lazy way. Here's the proper way. Here's what I want you guys to do. Select all 4 of your walls, and we're going to see this happen in real time. Go to your properties. There are base constraints and top constraints for our wall. Right now, my base constraint is the first floor. If I go look at my section, here's my first floor level. I'm attached to it. I do not currently have a top constraint, so I just tell Revit that is 20 foot. By default, that's what it does. What I would like to do is set it to be between the top of my crawl space footing and then the top of my foundation wall. And that should make it 3 foot tall, my 36 inches. So I'm going to go with my base constraint, top of footing crawl space, excuse me, top constraint. Oh, we just saw it move. Top constraint, top of foundation. Click apply. And now, if I go to check, there's my 36-inch crawl space. And you see it line up nicely with my levels. Okay. Muy bien. We're not done. We've got more walls to create. Ooh, notice I can no longer see it from my first floor plan. We're going to change something quick. This is a bit ahead of where we are. Select nothing. We see that our properties is for floor plan. I need to find my view range. Okay, view range, edit, and I want to go top of foundation. Now I think, okay, you got to change your view depth as well. Set that -1, should pick it up. There we go. We can now see our walls here. Okay, we should also have there's another keybind. Walls around the new part of our house. Okay, I can make a wall or keybind WA. Now instead of making lines, I'm gonna use a rectangle tool, and I'm gonna make sure I have the correct type selected right away. So I want my foundation wall 8-inch cast in place concrete. Place one corner, place the other. But I've made a mistake. I've already have a foundation wall here. I can get rid of this one. Select these 3. Base constraint. Top of footing for the full basement. Top constraint should still be top of foundation. Use my align tool. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to make it automatically lock. So if I go from that grid, top there, that grid, outside of my wall, that grid, outside of my wall, and now I can do this cool thing where I just drag and extend the wall and it merges. Okay. Checking here. We'll go to my south elevation, SS to measure. Only works if you have my keybinds. We're going to check. From here to here should be 8 foot. Perfect. Okay. Last thing to modify here. If they added a basement here, they're probably going to want this wall to extend all the way down. I'm going to go change its base constraint from top of footing crawl space to top of full footing for my full basement. And there we see it. Bing, bing, boom. Okay, so there's our foundation walls. I am missing footings. Okay, now typically our footings are going to be poured on the job site before the walls. In Revit, super quick to add them right now. If I go structure, whoop, wall footing, Before I place these, I'm going to modify my type. So let's look at what they want from us. Where's our note? Construction materials. 24 by 12 inch concrete T footing. Okay, T footing is just normal footing. Do I have a type built in? Ooh, that's a retaining footing. What do we think a retaining footing is? It doesn't look wrong. Okay. I still want to edit this one just for practice. Duplicate bearing footing 24 inches by 12 inches. Okay. We see it's already got structural material built in place. Okay, this is a little different than wall editing. My width, I need to change that to 2 feet. Foundation thickness, 1 foot is correct. And everything else should be good. Apply. Okay. And now I see that I am placing a wall foundation or a wall footing 24 inches by 12 inches. I know that it's cast in place concrete. Notice I can't just place it anywhere. These footings, super nice. In our 3D view, we can just select our wall. Boom, boom, boom. Wowza. And now we've got our footings. Easy peasy. So, that is foundation walls, foundation footings. Now would be a good time to save. Control S, save icon, whatever. Next, we're going to talk about floor systems and floor slabs.